Okay, welcome to my presentation on Brainscape. Um, uh, basically, we're going to be looking over the 4 E's, and I'm going to give you a basic rundown about how the program works and all that. But first, I'd like to acknowledge that and recognize that we are on the ancestral and unceded homelands of the Squamish and Hunku Minam peoples, and I'm grateful to be able to present while operating in this territory. Um, uh, yeah, so just a quick overview. I assume that you might be familiar with flashcards. Have you had any experience with those in the past? Excellent, as expected. Basically, Brainscape, and the reason why I was drawn to it is because, while I haven't used flashcards a lot, it is something that a lot of people around me have used from earlier ages all the way up into university. And I have found that since I didn't have to make my own, it was always very useful to use them, especially for things that involve a lot of rote learning, learning that requires lots of repetition. That is basic. Which is basically connected to simple facts and things like that, stuff that can be easily represented with a question and an answer. Um, uh, so I was curious to see just how things had been modernized in the information age with the access to all kinds of digital media and stuff like that. And we're going to go through a little bit of that today. Flashcards go back hundreds of years. They may have been used even further past our known history about them, but obviously we have some records of them being used in the early 1800s and late 1700s, kind of in that area. Now, it is kind of neat that they've kind of stayed around for this amount of time because they are still regularly used in a lot of places. But basically, what Brainscape is trying to do is to streamline and simplify the usage of these flashcards in a way that is faster, less cumbersome, smarter, and more effective at actually doing the job of that they were originally designed for, which is the rapid learning of rote facts and information, which is kind of what it specializes in. So what I'm going to do now is just jump into the program itself just to show you the basics of how this operates. So basically, what we have here is the main page after you sign in. The main version that exists is free, and you do have access to most of the functionality that exists in it, especially if you're willing to just make all of your own flashcards. What we'll do is we'll jump into a quick thing here, and I will go through and kind of explain how it does what it does. So let's just jump into psychology in the brain. You can see I've started this one a little while ago. I've been practicing with random things just to see. And this is basically how it works. So you have your question is the first thing that shows up. And you can see on the left, we have a round counter that's going to count the amount of time that we take for this particular round. Each round consists of 10 separate questions within the deck that you've selected or the group of decks. And basically, we just take a look at the question. So what is the term for new knowledge or skills being too hard due to the fact that there are already too many other new concepts in your short term memory? Now, I believe this is connected to cognitive load, but I think this might be something else. So basically, you answer the question, you press to reveal the answer, and you get an answer here. So it looks like I remember this from the last time, so I'm not doing too bad here. And it's kind of interesting because the psychology one directly connects to Brainscape itself. They also added in some additional information just to give you some context about the answer, which is something that you can do as well. So the next step, and this is how it does most of its magic, is I need to answer how well that I know this. So if I didn't know it at all, then I would press a 1. If I knew it perfectly and I could answer almost immediately, then I would put a 5 in. But basically what we're going to do is pick what we feel our confidence level is, and from there, it will start to reorganize the questions in such a way to encourage us to learn more effectively in the future. So I'm going to go 4 on this one because I wasn't 100% on that answer, but press it, it turns into a green one, and you can see that in the bottom left corner there, right over here, is where it actually It actually recorded our answer here. So let's check this next one. Blank knowledge is conscious knowledge and facts and concepts that can be verbalized, whereas blank knowledge involves knowing how to do something like ride a bike, write paper, solve complex not math problems. So I'm going to say rote knowledge, and I'm not 100% sure what this other one is here, but let's see what it is. It's, oh, look at that, declarative and procedural. I was not quite right there, so I'm going to put this at a 1 because I was totally off base on that one. I'm just going to go through quickly here just to give you an idea. The cerebral blank is the outer layer of the cerebrum, largest part of the brain. I believe this is the cerebral cortex. Yes, it looks like it. So not too bad there. I'll put a 5 on that one because I was pretty sure. 4 lobes of the human brain: frontal, parietal, occipital, and frontal. I said frontal already. Temporal I missed. Okay, don't quite know that one. I'll put that at a 3. True or false? Logical people use more left side of the brain, and creative people use more right side. I'd say that's false. It is false. There's a myth about lateralization. Okay, good job, Matthew. Going on. What is the name of the effect in which the brain's adaptive neuronal connections strengthen or weaken depending on the functions needed? Not some kind of neural strengthening of some sort. Brain plasticity. Okay, did not know that one at all. Put that at a 1. Well, look at this. We have a question that is coming back again. Blank knowledge is a conscious knowledge of facts and concepts. So this one we remember was declarative, and still don't 100% remember what the other one was, but it is procedural. Okay, I know it a little bit better than I did before. I'm going to move that up to a 2. Humans only use 10% of the brain. This is another myth, I believe. That is false. Okay, got that one down. Basic 5 human senses: touch, smell, taste, sight, and hearing. Look at me go. Okay, so this is going to be, we only have one left here. What part of the inner brain resembles a seahorse and is responsible for regulating learning and memory? I believe that's the hippocampus. Indeed. So as you can see, based on the questions that we got incorrect, it started to give us those ones a little bit more frequently. And you'll see the next, if we were to do another round, it would just keep on going like that, basically trying to get us to move more and more of our low confidence answers into places of higher confidence. And it's not going to give us too many new things until we've kind of mastered the stuff that we've already taken in. You can see it gives us an idea about the confidence that we've gained with this particular set, and it's keeping track of our mastery, how many things that we've actually pushed into that high confidence level. Okay, so here we'll back out. Yeah, so in regards to that, that is how this program works. They call it confidence-based repetition. So the more you know something, the less it's going to show it to you because there's less value in that. And the less you know something, the more often it's going to show it to you until you really start to understand and remember the things that you're supposed to in regards to that. When you're making, it's pretty easy to make decks and cards as well. You basically just open up, here, I'll show you one that I was creating here. You just click on edit and you very simply just put in questions and answers. You can add your own audio, you can add your own pictures. There's a lot of variety in how you set things up. And because it's using the confidence-based repetition, it's always asking for your confidence. It's not perfectly checking the answers you give. And that actually gives it a lot of power because it's very open-ended in how you can set these things up. And one of the most important things that we'll get into later is that just by needing to consider how well you know the answer that you've given, you are needing to engage a lot more with what is going on. If you're just doing multiple choice answers, or you're putting in questions, you're doing like short answer things, but there's a spelling mistake or something like that, these things can kind of throw you off what this program is trying to do. So it really tries to stay quite open-ended in that sense. I'm just going to go over another thing here, which has to do with, so you can make the flashcards quite quickly. You can import them from other people as well. And there are slight ways, like once you've done a whole bunch of different decks, you can actually start to select multiple decks at once and mix them all up together. Then you can either do it in such a way where it's the study button that you have to use for that, but you can do it in such a way where you are actively getting just random ones, or little by little you're finishing one deck at a time, and then it slowly adds in more and more of the other decks as it goes. So that's just a couple of ways that you can do it. The pro versions as well, I'll get into a little bit here. Very much connected to, checking my time, very much connected to the type of the pro version gives you some more options, including access to a whole bunch of different things, including the, let me just see here, big classes like nursing pharmacology and stuff, which has a whole bunch of like peer-reviewed things that are checked for their accuracy and how well they are at actually teaching you the things that are involved in that. And they have lots and lots of different classes regarding that. So let me just see here. Yeah, that's down at the bottom. Yeah, personal development, early childhood education, really, really good for languages, paramedic training, your MCAT, all kinds of different things. You just have to pay. They'll give you a little bit of taste of it, but you have to pay for it outside of that. Okay, now we're going to move on to the 4 E's. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to drop off the sharing. And we are going to start with, I don't know if this is mirrored for you here, but I am going to show it anyways. Excite. I'm going to use flashcards for this. So basically, right out of the gates, Brainscape kind of imagines its primary user base as being adults, not only adults, but self-motivated adults. And because of that, they don't spend a lot of energy or a lot on trying to make it interesting or exciting. There's very few ways that you can actually keep track of your progress. Mastery level is basically it. It also keeps track of some of the times that you use, but it doesn't end up doing too much in that way. So obviously, this is going to hurt its rating on this quite a bit. Because all you're working towards is the 100% mastery levels. It can be exciting to kind of work towards that and try to get 100% on everything and keep it up there as the weeks and months pass, especially after, like if you're doing an active job that requires you to know this stuff like nursing or something, then it can be quite helpful to have access to that. Now there are, although it can't, there is a Kafai et al. Study that actually shows that the visualization of this progress can be very motivating. So it does get some points there. Now, there are some attempts at teaching through different newsletters and tips that it sends you in your email, but there's no guarantee that students are going to read that stuff necessarily. So it's one of those things where they just give you some tips to actually stay motivated, which is kind of a nice touch, but doesn't actually, isn't directly connected to the app. Now, it's not a terribly exciting presentation either, so it is quite sleek and allows you to get through stuff very quickly. It does not add much to the motivation or excitement that a learner may feel as they're going through this stuff. So, you will be able to spend very limited time on it. So because it's going quickly, you can cut it up into little tiny pieces, which, allows you to spend less time on a boring thing, which you might not actually enjoy, but know that you need to do. So I guess it gets some points there, but the grade that I gave this one was oops, I already showed it, C plus. C plus for Excite. The next one that we're going to look at is Educate, and this is kind of where it shines the most. Educate is kind of the main reason that it exists. Because we're dealing with self-motivated learners, anybody who is interested in trying to get a better grasp of the facts and things inside of their chosen subject will definitely find this a very useful thing. One of the best things about this is that retrieval practice, which is mostly what we're doing here, which is an attempt at learning rote facts and knowledge, there's a lot of studies that have been done, including one from Karpicke and Roediger, and it just shows that this type of learning is much more effective at actually recalling or retaining this information, and it tends to be a lot better than other methods where you're just studying or reviewing facts, especially which was shown by Hogan and Kintsch. Now, this type of practice is exactly what Brainscape excels at, like I said. And very similar to what flashcards were doing before, with the additional benefit of actually choosing for the things that you know the least. Due to the speedy nature of that you can get through these decks and the speed at which you can do each of these rounds. It also allows you to have wider gaps in when you're actually doing this training, which just helps out even more when it comes to this stuff. And that was actually found in a few studies, but one by Cepeda et al. Actually, kind of show just how effective it is when you can break up your learning and you're not doing it all at once. On a smaller scale, this principle is directly connected to the use of the the confidence-based repetition system. So because it is, like I said, it is allowing you to go over that less known information a little bit more effectively. And it also stops you from getting overloaded cognitively by keeping back the new information until you've had a bit of a mastery on the other information. Unfortunately, there are certain types of information and knowledge that do not fit nicely into this flashcard method. Therefore, other types of learning are required. But within those contexts, there's always things that you can pick up and put inside of this flashcard-based system in order to assist with any other learning that you're doing. If you have like actual, almost every skill-based training, for instance, you can't teach the skills themselves over this system, but all of the other facts and things you need to know around it, you can, especially when it comes to anything that is connected to testing, especially. So yeah, so the combination of those teaching methods are actually very effective. So because of how effective this training and this education is, once you have the self-motivated learner as they're expecting, I give it an A minus. Not too shabby. The next one we're looking at here is engage. Now, engage is one of those ones that unfortunately it does fall short a little bit, just in regards to the lack of flashy things. There isn't a really way to collaborate with other people either. And even when it comes to teachers, you can actually do this in the pro version where you have a teacher version that is able to keep an eye on what all of the students are doing. It doesn't tend to help all that much because all they're seeing is the mastery level and kind of how their confidence is increasing. So it's letting them know that they're using it and that they're getting a high level of confidence, but might not give them much insight outside of that. It's very basic stats that it's giving you most of the time. So because we're dealing with the highly motivated learners, each time a flashcard is flipped, a moment is taken to consider how well they knew that answer when it's revealed. So this is what I was talking about before, where in order to check how confident you are in something, you really have to consider what you know or how well you know something. And this is a very helpful thing, as shown by Schraw and Moshman, where metacognitive activities, assessing your own comprehension, as is the case in here, result in the improvement of attention and the use of other cognitive resources. So rating confidence increases the engagement of the matter at hand, just in that way. In addition, the format of an open-ended answer without the usage of multiple choice or short answers, like I said before, encourages the active participation of the learner connected to the research, which is also connected to the research I just mentioned. Similar to the previous section, though, due to the way the not though, this is a positive thing. Due to the way the confidence-based repetition algorithm organizes things, it does keep them more focused on the more challenging things, and those more challenging things are found to also help engagement. If you're doing something difficult, you're much more likely to stay engaged rather than just doing the same questions again and again and slowly losing interest in it. In addition to that, also there are studies connected to the normal habits of students and learners without constraints. And it is found that they tend to use cognitive-based repetition in their own studies already. It's kind of like an instinctual thing. The more difficult something is, the more time you're going to spend studying on it. The less difficult, then the less you're going to spend on it. So there is a certain amount of engagement when what the person desires to do is already kind of matching up with the way that the confidence-based repetition is operating inside of this particular program. So Brainscape is trying to fit in with what a person would naturally do in those circumstances anyways. And yeah, like I said before, because it does not encourage collaboration, you can't really interact with other people. That does take definitely some viewpoint when it comes to engagement, which is why I give it a B minus. B minus for engagement. Could do a lot better if there were some more ways of doing things, but because it is such a self-motivated type thing, it is hard to work those things into the program. And finally, the last one we're going to do here, as I slowly go over time, we got evaluate. And evaluate is kind of a tricky one because there's only really one or two metrics that they use in this thing to show how successful you're doing and to show your progress. And it's all mastery. It's all moving all of the items inside of a deck or multiple decks from the less confident to the more confident bins. So once you have moved everything to a level 5, then you basically are just maintaining that knowledge and checking in on it if you really want to keep that stuff inside of your head. Now, yeah, so one of the nice things about that is once you have mastery level, you can just take longer and longer intervals in between your sessions just in order uh, to retain the information indefinitely. So, instead of just taking a week in between, you can take a month and then you can check it out every 3 months. And then eventually you have to look at that stuff as often because it's just in your head. Now, the application does receive a higher grade in my eyes than it would in most situations, just because the type of measurement matches exactly with what it's trying to do, because it's all confidence based. Once you have maximum confidence in what you're learning, that's really all you need to know as a self-assessment kind of thing, right? There isn't anything else the program's really trying to do. So in that case, especially if it had better teacher-based things than, or if we were considering teacher-based abilities that it might have or features, then it would also have a lower score. But based on what it is attempting to do here, I'm going to give it a B. So yeah, those are the 4 E's for Brainscape. I think now is the time to pass it over to questions. If you have any, let me know. I'd be happy to answer them. I realize I went just a touch over time here, but yeah, definitely let me know if you have any questions. It does not, unfortunately. It only supports pictures and audio at the moment. So that's one of those things where it is a bit of a shortfall when it comes to what is possible in terms of the questions. There's also a lot of open-endedness. I didn't really talk about this too much, but a lot of the questions that it asks as well are much more broad. So instead of just asking for one type of information, it'll ask for, name 10 of these particular category of things, or name all the continents in the world, or all the countries of a particular size, or something like that. So you do have a lot of options in that sense, but video is not supported at this moment in time. And I did not see any mention of them thinking about doing it in the future. So might be a reason to stay away from it if it comes from that. They do try to keep it pretty close to the whole flashcard view as much as possible. Any other questions? Yeah, you too. Thanks for coming by.